Hello, everybody, and welcome to Fireside Fridays. My name is Mr. Rudloff. Here with me today we have
Rory Cordy.
Eli Pilikowski.
And the goal of this podcast is to give seniors in high school an opportunity to share their opinions, their views about politics affecting our world with all of you viewers that we have here. So that being said, the first thing that we're going to talk about today is a transgender lawsuit going on in New Hampshire. How about you guys tell us about that a little bit?
School in New Hampshire is challenging Trump's executive order to ban transgender girls from competing in women's sports. And they're not too happy with that.
So this is something that Trump came up with in some of his first days in office. Talked about, obviously, whatever gender that you are assigned at birth will be the gender that you will compete on. And then the NCAA, National Collegiate Athletic Association, for those of you who don't know, went and backed Trump and said, yep, it's whatever gender you're assigned at birth. So that being said, it's definitely new, right? It's a new idea that we have not seen in the last 4 years for sure. And so it's what you're seeing here is like almost a shift in policy, almost back in time, right, to what we saw when Trump was president in 2020. So that being said, do you think that this is a good thing for the NCAA and sports in general?
I think it's a good thing. I think it keeps it all fair,
Okay.
Like I said, I think it's kind of common sense, that women compete in women's sports and men compete in men's sports, and it comes down to like locker rooms and stuff like that. You don't want.
What if they provided a different locker room for these transgender people?
Well, I think no matter what, there's still going to be somebody that's uncomfortable with the situation, and I just think it'd be better if we just kept it the way it is, and men go in men's locker rooms and women go in women's locker rooms.
There's always something interesting to talk about with this whole thing, and I know several women who have played college sports, and especially at like the Division I, Division II level, they actually have women who are, competing obviously in basketball, let's say, and then their practice team is oftentimes these guys or individuals who are competing against the women, which is interesting, right? And it's not, I don't know, I guess it's not uncommon. I can think of another situation where women have competed with men in like track and things like that in high school. And so does this like prevent that from happening, right? Is this really good for everybody is the question. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I think it's just fair. I mean, there's obviously sports that men are going to be better at and sports that women are going to be better at. So I think just keeping the playing field fair, keeping everybody men with men and women with women,
Yeah.
Like there was that instance where it was the swimmer guy that swam with a bunch of girls or something.
Leah Thomas, I believe, is who you're referencing. So it would have been at birth a man, but then a transgender woman. Yep.
It was kind of just unfair. I mean, he kind of just was way ahead of the competition,
Yeah. So do you think that does this hurt women's sports when you allow men to compete in them?
I think it can, yeah. I think it's unfair for some of the women,
Gotcha. Fair enough.
Yeah.
All right. Here with birthright citizenship. All right. So with birthright citizenship, this is something that's really interesting. I think something that we got to talk about here to begin this is the 14th Amendment, right? The 14th Amendment, which ultimately was a Reconstruction Amendment after the Civil War that gave citizenship to African American individuals who were formerly slaves. But it's interesting how, that was used to describe citizenship for people from that point on, right? People born or naturalized in the United States were given that right. And so it's definitely an interesting thing that Trump's bringing up here. What do you guys think about it?
I think, well, obviously I'm against, being in the United States illegally, but I mean, I think everybody coming inside the country should have to work for their citizenship. And
what if they're born here, though, Mr. Cordy? If you're born in the United States, shouldn't you be a United States citizen? Don't we have legislation and rulings upon this from the Supreme Court for many, many years that back this?
But then again, if you're born to an illegal, like if your mom and dad are illegal and then you're born here, well, what makes you a citizen then?
Well, theoretically, the 14th Amendment, right? I mean, that's how it's been over years and years and years. And I think that the struggle that you get with this, right, is that if you're committing a crime, right, by being in the country illegally, which we would agree that's a crime, yes, okay? And so if you're committing a crime and then you have a kid who's born here, well, if you're committing a crime, they're going to deport you, right? But then your kid's going to be left in the United States, right? And so it's causing a unique issue here for sure. And ultimately, the legal challenges that are here are obviously very prevalent, and so it's kind of a difficult situation here. Do you think that it's a good thing to end birthright citizenship?
And you could say yes and no, but I feel like right now with the excess of illegals in our country, it's kind of hard to keep up with, I mean, with the amount of people we have coming over the border compared to, 50, 100 years ago.
Oh, I don't know. Well, perhaps illegal, right? But let's be
Yeah.
honest, America in general, though, most of us in this room right here, as I'm looking around, we're not natives from the United States. So most of us, if not all of us, are immigrants to this country.
Yeah.
And frankly, we're founded on immigration, are we not?
Yeah, we are.
I saw a stat the other day, and that's kind of where I'm steering this conversation, is to immigration. How long do you guys think that it takes for someone to, because it's like, just go through the steps, right? Just go through the process, right? Get your legal immigration, right? We don't need to come over here illegally. How long do you think that process typically takes?
Probably a couple of years. I'd
Yeah,
imagine,
exactly. Like I was talking to, this is the firsthand source the other day of one of your guys' peers, and he said it was 3 years, right? It took 3 years for that to happen. So can you see why some people in search of a better life might,
Yeah.
say, all right, well, we're going to come into the country illegally. We're going to try and give not only ourselves, but our kids an opportunity for a better life, right? 3 years is a long time to wait. And then sometimes you don't even know if it's going to happen, right? Mr. Cordy.
Well, yes. I mean, to be a citizen of the United States is something that a lot of people want to be, and I understand that. But then we also have people in this country that complain about being a citizen and complain about the country and the way it's run, and they want to leave. But then, well, if you're in this country and you're complaining about it, then why don't you just leave?
Well, perhaps. It's not always that easy, right? It's not always that easy. Where would you go, Rory? Here's a great question.
I wouldn't go anywhere because I'm a proud citizen.
If you would recommend, no, I'm saying if anyone was going to go somewhere, where would you recommend that they go? What's the next best country other than America in your eyes?
Well, I don't think there's anything to complain about, first of all.
Okay, this guy, he's red, white, and blue, all right? It's just interesting to think about, right? People, obviously, what do you think are people's biggest issues with America, then?
I don't know. That's the thing.
Can you think of any?
Well, I think they think they're not treated fairly or whatever, but
Do you think some people are unfairly treated versus other people?
it's just the way you look at it, I think.
This guy. All right.
I mean, I think if you're a good person and you work hard and you got good morals, then you're not going to get treated unfairly.
Okay. What do you guys think around here, around the room? What do you think are some reasons that people might not like the United States? Maybe the president, he's a little bit divisive. Trump, I assume that you're asking. Yeah, Trump, maybe Trump's a little bit divisive. What else? I think something that we talked about last class, we get taxed a lot in America, don't we? And where do some of our tax dollars go? Do they go
To the wrong place.
Yeah, I mean, we've been looking at that this week, and right or wrong, the Department of Government Efficiency, $94 billion it's cut already, you guys, off of, misallocated spending, they would call it. And again, right or wrong, I don't know, but it's just interesting where we're getting taxed a lot in America. That might upset some people. We're very divisive. We also, I think it's important to understand, have a lot of different ethnicities. We've got a lot of different races. We've got a lot of different people. And how do you blend all those cultures together? And I think that's the thing that it can be tough, right? And testament to what Richard said back there is sometimes, if you have a leader who's maybe not as unifying, like we could argue, maybe there's been a lack of that in the United States, can that cause some issues?
Yeah, and I think diversity is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
But we just got to find a way to work together, and you know, this is a great country, and I think there's a place for everybody.
Yeah, right on. I like the way you say that. Mr. Pilikowski, anything else to add, sir?
I mean, there's a lot of cultures and everything, but at the end of the day, we're all Americans. I mean, we're all in the same country. We all are part of the same thing.
Yeah, totally. I
Same
agree.
opportunities and everything. So
Yeah. And ultimately, tying back to what we were talking about with our birthright citizenship, right? I think that we've just got to figure out a way in America to maybe make the immigration process better, and to help people come into the country legally at a rate that's not the pace of a snail.
So what all goes into that process? Like, what makes it take so long? That 3 years?
Yeah. So, I mean, some of it is just like our court systems move incredibly slow.
Yeah.
And so it can be difficult when you're getting appointments, when you're getting hearings, things like that. What else? You guys are doing research. Let us know if you come up with some other things. I don't know all of the ins and outs of it, but I know that it can be a long, lengthy process. It's not like back in the 1800s when they were coming through Ellis Island, and it was like. And did you guys do that when you were younger? Like the little Ellis Island simulation where you had. Well, this is something that I did when I was younger, where you had a fake name, and you're from Poland, right? And you're coming here and you have like no money, and like some people, maybe had a little bit of a sickness or something, so they would get turned away, and then some people didn't, and so they would come into the country, and then ultimately, they were just kind of dumped in New York City, right? And that's why New York City has so many different cultures and ethnicities, like Chinatown, Little Italy, places like that, and immigration back then, though, it was like, you had a couple weeks over on the boat, and then they booked you rather quickly at Ellis Island, though, right? And so it's unique on how that process has changed over time. Essentially, it's going to be a couple different forms, a lot of paperwork, right? A lot of paperwork, what we talked about there. And so the process, again, can be kind of slow, methodical, stuff like that. So I think ultimately, it's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. At least legally, I don't see the birthright citizenship thing being revoked. I really don't, because that's a precedent that was established in 1870, I believe, late 1860s. And so I don't see it ending soon, but it definitely brings up a unique discussion about Americanism in the United States. So that being said, we're going to move on to our last topic here, and that's going to be the border wall. So what do you guys have to say about the border wall here? What do you want to discuss?
Well, I think obviously there's a problem down there, and with the influx of people that are coming across the wall or the border, but I think we should work harder to prevent some of that from happening.
Is it just the people that we're concerned about?
No, it's the drugs too, obviously.
Yeah, what drug did we talk about this week of?
What was it? Fentanyl.
Fentanyl, right?
Yeah.
So fentanyl and opioid, okay? And we talked about how fentanyl is going to be 80 times more potent than that of, what did we say? Was that of morphine, I believe? Yeah. Right, and then it's 100 times more potent than heroin.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then we talked about how that one, there was a clip that we didn't show in class here, but that I've seen in the past that talked about this police officer lady who just brushed up on the fentanyl, right? And she was ODing rather quickly there within seconds. And so that's definitely one of the big concerns. And I'm going to tie in with the border wall, right? Obviously, immigration, we talked about that, but just the drug trade. And Trump saw that as coming from China, right? And so he told the Chinese, we're going to put a 10% tariff on you. He told the Mexican government, we're going to put a 25% tariff on you unless we start to do some work on this. And then, like we discussed in class, what did Mexico do? Well, they sent, border agents to the border there. And obviously they, delayed the tariffs for at least the time being. So obviously there's problems with fentanyl in the United States. I believe, fact check me on this really quick, about 100,000 individuals overdosed in the last year, and 70% of them were from fentanyl. And we talked about how fentanyl is kind of used as a mixing drug and things like that. So it definitely brings about its unique challenges. Do you think that Donald Trump is going about it the right way by tariffing China, tariffing Mexico, or at least threatening to tariff Mexico to help at the border?
I mean, I think it's a step, and I think it's, it makes it, people pay attention to it. Like I don't know what the word is, but like, the world hears about it. Like, he's putting these big tariffs on everything, and I think it's an effective step towards it. It might not. I mean, there's obviously
Towards
more
reducing the drug trade,
yes,
correct?
yes. I mean, there's probably more that needs to be done later on, but I think it's a good first step in trying to help it a little bit.
Yeah. Mr. Pilikowski.
I mean, when there's American citizens endangered because of it, I think it needs pretty immediate attention. I think what he's doing is good for the country.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the drug trade in America, it definitely seems like a lot of nations, like that's where they're selling their stuff to. How do you guys see, like, how do we do better as Americans to help prevent drug use in America?
Good question.
Well, I mean, like, obviously there's groups and stuff that are raising awareness against it, and I think ultimately it kind of goes back to parenting too. If the kids are raised in a household where that kind of stuff is frowned upon or whatever, then they're probably going to have less chance of doing it later on in their life. But I think we can always do more as citizens too to try to prevent awareness for it, and
Prevent awareness, bring awareness,
bring awareness
Yeah.
about it. And I don't know, it's a problem.
Yeah,
but
it is a problem. And honestly, with all these issues that we talk about on Fireside Fridays, there might not be a great solution, but it's unique to weigh the positives and the negatives of that, and to hopefully come up with ideas and generate ideas and do things like that. So that being said, thank you guys for being on today. Thank you guys for watching.